Good morning. Welcome to the board meeting of Behavioral Sciences. We are located November the 3rd, 2016. We are located at the Marriott Riverside at the Convention Center in Riverside, California. And I need to call for a quorum.
Good morning. Patricia Locke-Dawson.
Here.
Deborah Brown.
Here.
Dr. Leah Brew. Here. Max Viscosti.
Here.
Karen Pines. Here. Did I get everybody? We have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. At this point, we are going to turn the meeting over to the Honorable Judge Johnson, and she will preside over this. Our first petitioner is Mr. Rami, and correct me please, Murhi? Murhi. Close. So, Judge Johnson?
Thank you. Good morning. On the record, this is a petition for reduction of penalty against Rami Sami Murhi, M-E-R-H-I. Ms. Brown, the chairperson, has identified our location, and I think we're ready for you to state your appearance for the record.
Your Honor, board members. Lauro A. Paredes with the Attorney General's Office.
Ronnie Murhi?
And you're representing yourself today, is that correct, sir?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Good morning, Your Honor, board members. Again, Lauro Paredes with the Deputy Attorney General with the Attorney General's Office, appearing on behalf of the people of the state of California pursuant to Business and Professions Code Sections 2760.1 and Government Code Section 11522. At this time, Your Honor, I'd like to mark for identification some documents.
Please.
What the court has in front of it, and Mr. Murhi does as well, the board members should have similar copies, is a list of documents. What we would like tabbed as Exhibit 1 is the request to be removed from probation and its supporting documents.
Thank you. That will be Exhibit 1.
The next set of documents is the original causes for discipline, the stipulated settlement and disciplinary order.
Just 1 second, please.
That has a cover page on it.
And that follows the
Directly follows.
application itself.
Yes.
So the decision in order, and attached to the decision in order is the statement of issues in this case.
Right, and it begins with a cover page that says stipulated settlement and disciplinary order statement of issues.
Thank you.
That document and that series of documents ends with the statement of issues, date numbered page 8, a bunch of pages in, and the next cover page says Psychotherapy Reports, and we'd like that, which is exactly what it is, and we'd like those marked as Exhibit 3.
These documents were provided to the board members prior to today, correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you.
The next tab is a single-page document that says notification of hearing to probation, so it's a cover page and a single-page document listing today's time and location. Like that as Exhibit 4.
Thank you.
The final 2 pages we'd like is Exhibit 5. It's a single page that says registration history certification, and then the next page is the actual registration history certification.
Thank you.
Okay.
The document I have says that it's renewed until October 31st. 2016. Do you know if there's a current registration?
I don't have an updated one.
It is registered, and I paid my fees and all that already.
So it is current?
Yeah, I paid it 2 months ago, it's current.
Okay.
I think I'm just waiting for the new one in the mail.
Okay. You have
Current.
any evidence to the contrary, sir?
No, we will stipulate that it's a good. And, Your Honor, I've also spoken with Mr. Merhi, and I believe these are all relevant documents. He has no additional documents on his side.
Okay.
So
And did you
just-
want to offer these documents at this time?
Yes, Your Honor.
Any objections, sir?
I did have I sent in a document about 30 days ago. I don't believe it's in here. It was from the current employer that I had, but I did mail it to the case manager, to the caseworker that I had. So I mailed it to her.
Current employment?
Yeah, the place I'm volunteering at now, the supervisor that I have today, he wrote me a letter on October 1st, but it doesn't seem to be in here, so I'm assuming that these, I don't know why it's not in
Who's
here.
that letter from?
It's from my current supervisor
What's
right
that
now.
person's name?
Edgar Villa.
Okay. Do you have a copy of that with you?
I don't. I was told that all the stuff would be here from the caseworker, that she said just bring yourself. All the paperwork would be sent in already. I didn't need to bring anything with me.
Okay.
I've never been in one of these things before. I just took her word for it.
Okay.
We can bring that, we can look in our office for it, I'm Kim Hanson, executive officer. I can check with staff to see if that.
Okay, can it be provided before we recess to closed session? Okay.
Comes down to it, I can always mail it in again.
How do you, Your Honor, do you want to proceed with the case and then see?
Yes.
At
Yes.
this time, we'd like to set a little background with an opening.
Excuse me
argument.
just a minute. I trust that that's a letter from the, where you said where you're volunteering right now?
Right, correct.
And I trust that letter is going to say you're wonderful and all that good stuff?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
Okay,
All right.
then we'll proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Petitioner comes before the board requesting a early termination of probation. The original documents in this case, the original cause for discipline was a statement of issues. So respondent applied, his license was initially denied, and then through a stipulated settlement approved by the board, he was granted licensure. He was granted licensure in October 1st of 2013. He's been under probation since that time. The effective date of
Mr. Paredes?
Yes.
I apologize for saying your last name wrong, but the court reporter wants you to slow down.
Thank
I
you,
can
Your
just
Honor.
feel it over here.
Thank you, Your Honor.
So October 1st, 2013, correct?
October 1st, 2013 is respondent's first date of licensure. He was, his license was granted, revoked, the revocation was stayed, so he's been on probation, and his probation was set for 5 years. The original causes for discipline on his license stem from a series of convictions, relatively older convictions. They began with a shoplifting conviction in 2001, followed by a transportation and possession of marijuana convictions in 2002, a DUI in 2003, with the requisite use of alcohol in a dangerous manner that we generally charge, and a further conviction for what is essentially disturbing the peace. It's a local code from Anaheim, but basically the same thing. So,
And then when was that conviction?
That conviction was in 2008. It's the most recent and apparently the last negative contact respondent has had. He's done a number of therapy sessions, which are in the record, and now comes before the board seeking early termination of probation by approximately 2 years, a little less than 2 years.
Did you want to make an opening statement? You may do so, you're not required to do so.
I've never, never really made an opening statement before, but I just like
This
to
would
say
be your
thank you.
opportunity to summarize anything
Okay.
you'd like to talk about that's relevant to the
Okay.
proceeding.
But
Otherwise, I'll open it up for the board members to ask questions.
Okay,
Excuse me, Judge. Do we have to sworn in the witness first, or it doesn't matter?
Not for an opening statement.
Okay, thank you.
Not for but when he answers your questions, certainly I'll swear.
Thank you.
Unless it's the board's practice to do so before the opening statement. Oh, okay, thank you.
I'm gonna try not to be as nervous, but I just
Well,
like
you'll be nervous, so you may as well accept
hopefully
that.
not as nervous as him, but but I'll be nervous. Yeah, so all of these things happened about 12 years ago, and at that point in time, I was very young, and I didn't think I'd ever be going to school. It was definitely a change of a lifestyle for me to be here where I am today. And, unfortunately, no matter if I get them expunged or if time flies by, they've just haunted me down. And, I'm just trying to move forward in life to have something reputable without having them hunt me down from being 20 now that I'm 35 years old. So I just like to keep that as an opening statement.
Thank you. Could you raise your right hand and face me? Do you swear or affirm that any statement that you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Did you have any questions?
I do, Your Honor.
Proceed.
All right, sir, I'm going to try and get some background from you, okay? What's your educational background?
My educational background is I started going to school, I think, around 2003 or 4. So I graduated high school with the 2.0, just enough to play sports. And then I kind of slipped into the wrong crowd afterwards. Going through therapy, I realized that, I have 3 sisters and a brother, and they were all older and successful. So being 2 years younger than my sister and going to school with her, she always had AP classes and straight A's. I think I kind of got discouraged chasing her down in the grades department. I kind of fell into the wrong crowd a little bit, and then one night my mom gave me intervention, and my sister got me a part-time job working at the university I was at, making $7 an hour. 5 months later after that, they offered me a full-time position at the school as a center assistant, an engineer for all the faculty and chair people. This is National University in Costa Mesa. And at that point in time, when I was, they offered free school for full-time employees. Well, my grades were 2.0, and I applied to the school, and I got denied because it was a university, and I had completely wasted all my junior college money. So I wrote a letter to the Board of Trustees, the CAS committee, and I got denied, I think, 5 or 6 times. And then finally they wrote me a letter back that said, please not write us any more letters, we're going to let you in. So.
All right, let's start this. When did you graduate from high school? What year?
1999.
And then at this point, you've worn down National University, and they let you in.
They let me in.
Roughly when was this?
I want to say maybe 2003, 2004. It's been a long time in that area.
And did you start taking full loads, part-time loads?
Well, the school is, the school worked out for me because it wasn't like the general schools. It was an accelerated school. So you take 1 class per month, you do 2 weeks of papers, and then you take midterm, and then you take 2 weeks, and you do final exam and papers in between. So focusing on 1 class was a lot easier for me to do than taking 5 classes at a time. So when the school let me in, they put me on probationary status to see if I do well, and I ended up excelling. I got A's and B's in the first 5 classes I took. And I was actually going there for the computer science program, and I started taking psychology classes along the way because I didn't want to lose the opportunity to start school. And I don't know what happened, but 7 years later I woke up in this field. So it's
All right. Let me go through, and I want you to turn to those documents right there, and there's a section that says stipulated settlement, and I want to go towards a section that says the actual statement of issues. So it's the reason that you were initially denied. And if you find that section, it's the statement of issues at the bottom, and there's a page 5. At the bottom. Stipulated settlement, let me help you.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to go over these, and I just want to get just a general understanding. So in 2001, how old were you?
Uh,
18 or 19.
20 or 21.
Okay, and you did that. You stole a bottle of liquor. Okay, what was going on in your life? What was your thought process when that happened?
I was 20. I was hanging out with the wrong crowd. I couldn't buy alcohol yet. I was burning up my junior college money at the time. At the point in time in my life, I never thought I'd be going to school. I never thought I'd want to go to college. My family and brothers and sisters were all successful, so it was really hard to be in that mode. But at that point in time, I was just screwing up my life and avoiding everybody else.
And this lasted for a number of years, is that right?
This lasted for about 5 years, I believe, until about the age 22, 23.
And so you don't deny any of the other stuff in here,
No.
the DUI, all the other convictions? Okay. All right. So you said you took classes at National University for a long time, and at some point you wanted licensure from the Board of Behavioral Sciences. What did you want? What did you want at that time?
Well, when I started going to school, I fell into the passion of addictions. So I got my bachelor's in psychology, and I got a minor's in addictive disorders. And then I got my master's in marriage family therapy. And that was tough to get into too. I kind of knew this stuff was going to happen along the way. It was a choice I made coming into this field. The chairperson that I was at my school, who was there, told me that this was more likely going to happen, and it was going to be hard for me to get licensed. And I chose this route anyways to see what would happen. So this was something that I knew was going to come up eventually.
Been on probation for how long now?
This probation for about 3 years. I think since October 2013.
Have you been doing, what's your take on the probation? How have you been doing on it?
Excellent. The case manager I got is fantastic. I have to send her a thank you card. She's been amazing along the way, very supportive, very responsive, and I told her anything you say I'm going to do. I've done everything that she's asked. I've done it on time, and I call her for everything. If I have a little question, I call her and ask her. Yeah.
Some of the probation terms that you have are abstaining from controlled substances and abstaining from alcohol. Have you had any issues with that?
I haven't had no issues with abstaining from alcohol or illicit substances. I actually stopped all of that multiple years before I started on this probation. And actually, so when I went in to do the treatment center, which was one of the stipulations to go to the alcohol treatment center, I got 3 awards that I mailed into her as well, which was for outstanding participation and outstanding attendance. I never missed a day. So it was something that,
If you are granted your license free and clear, do you have a desire to begin drinking again socially, or?
I have no desire to drink. I have no desire for drugs. And I work in the addictions field. I see this every day. I work with my case manager license, so I do both. So I have a lot of experience with addictions. I worked for Salvation Army back in 2011. I worked there as a case manager. I worked with veterans and parolees. for
You
alcohol.
work
and
with
drug-
what kind of parolees?
with veterans and parolees for drug and alcohol addictions, and I was very blessed because when I went there, the director signed me up to register for a drug and alcohol license. And in 2013, when I got my MFT number, when I finally got it, I told him I wanted to quit, and he got sad, and he told me, you know, we don't want you to quit here, we want to give you a layoff so you can come back when you're done with your license. So when I left, they gave me a layoff, they had a party for me, they told me to come back when you're licensed, and then I followed through with it, even though I started working on my MFT hours, and I was, you know, working on the stuff with the case manager, I still followed through with it. In 2014, I passed the license exam to get licensed for drug and alcohol. As a counselor, as a certified counselor for drug and alcohol. So I
That was
followed-
2013?
2014.
14.
Yeah.
One of the other conditions in your probation was mandatory psychotherapy classes.
Yes. So for the six CEUs, I took a class over there at Dominguez Hills. I went down and spoke to the chairman there, and he was kind enough to let me take a class at Dominguez Hills University. And I took the addictions class they had there for the master's program. And I think I got 98 out of 100. And I missed 2 points for being late one class. He said I'd never give anybody a perfect score, but
There was also, you have to
Excuse
do
me.
therapy.
Yes.
What school was that again?
that was at Cal State Dominguez Hills.
But, and you also have to take you have to go to a counselor, psychotherapy.
Yes.
Okay. How was finding one? How did you end up working with that person?
So the first person that I tried to get for a therapist got scared of the board. She didn't want to take me on because she was afraid the board was going to look at her. And then she had to find out that she was going to have to write a report to you guys every couple months. So she got scared, and after the first 3 sessions, she no longer wanted to see me. So the second one I found, actually, I found her through, I think through a person in Long Beach Mental Health. They weren't taking any clients there, and one lady randomly called me and said, I think I might have somebody for you. And she gave me a couple numbers. I actually called one of the numbers, and I went to go see this therapist, and she's roughly a little bit older than me. She's married, she has kids, and I hit it off with her. So therapy with her is fantastic. She gets me. She gets where she understands me, and you know, it was a perfect match. I feel so blessed to have found a good therapist that was willing to take me in and not make me feel rejected.
And that's Miss Yuki Frazier?
That's correct.
All right, I'm going to ask you to turn in that documents to the psychotherapy reports, which I believe are Exhibit 3. And there's a number of them, so I'm actually only going to go over 2 right now, but I want to go over the first one. So you find this page says psychotherapy. And then go to the second page, the one that says overall evaluation and prognosis.
Okay.
And that's the report dated April 4th, 2014.
I apologize, yeah, Your Honor, I should have put that in the record. So this is the first report that I have, and it's dated April 4th, 2014. I'm looking at the second page that says overall evaluation and prognosis. And also the difficulties and resistance section right above it. Specifically, in the difficulties and resistance section, it says, client still appears to be filtering his true self. At that time, do you think that was an accurate diagnosis or evaluation?
So what time was that?
This is beginning, this is
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yes, I do. Can I say something about that?
Yes, please.
Oh, yeah, so filtering my true self. So I had a lot of issues I had to work out. I had a lot of resentments with my parents, resentments with myself, and mostly being upset at what I was really doing at that age and why I deterred from my family. I actually had an emotional breakthrough with my therapist eventually. We did a lot of EMDR treatment for
What type of treatment?
EMDR.
Thank you.
And, I confronted
I'm the
my,
only person who doesn't know what that is. What is an EMDR?
it's for trauma.
Reprocessing.
Thank you.
And so I confronted my dad one day, and, I kind of told him how I felt throughout the therapy, and my dad kind of broke down too. I kind of had an understanding, and over time, like, my dad became my best friend rather than somebody I resented. So now I took him for his first fishing trip, took my mom to a concert. So I see my parents as best friends now. I tell them everything, and my relationship with them grew tenfold, and I'm very blessed to have them.
In that same section, but the very last page of that section, so keep going through all the reports, and this is the final report that I have, and it's dated July 1st, 2016, and I'm looking at the second page. All right, there's a section that says, again, that difficulties in resistance and overall evaluation and prognosis. Says that you've improved your physical health and exercise and diet. What has that done for you?
So I took it upon myself. I picked up a lot of weight through Salvation Army, eating food that was coming through every day. And, no one told me the food was designed to feed the homeless that were skinny. So I picked up a lot of weight over there, and when I got to the Gary Center, I just was tired of, needed a change. So I started going to the gym and doing fitness camps, and going at 7 o'clock in the morning, and I felt motivated, and I come in, and my work ethics grew, and somehow, I motivated the whole office, and everybody else wanted to do the same thing, so everyone started losing weight in the office. And the director there, after I've lost almost 65 pounds, working out every day, sometimes an hour a day. The director told me my clothes were looking like I was homeless, She said I was looking like one of the clients because I was getting too skinny on her.
And so near the end of the overall evaluation, it says, should client desire to be a productive citizen and continue to be successful in his choices of profession, client needs to routinely re-examine his life and choices and to be held accountable for his choices. Do you think that's true?
I need to be accountable for everything I do. And the fact of the matter is, I'm all or nothing, and I am all in. So I have been mostly all for everything I've started. I mean, going through this, knowing what I was going through beforehand, I was all for it, and I stick through things through the end. Going to the gym, I did the same thing. My work ethics are the same as well, and I know what goals I want and what I want to accomplish. I'm not just going into this blind. I want to get married. I want to have kids. I want to be successful. I want to change my life to the point where, where I can be somebody who is a grown man and working on himself rather than to have to be blocked from things I did as a child.
All right, sir. Now, it appears that you've done very well with the structure of probation. Is there any concern in your mind that without the structure of probation that you could have something of a backslide?
There's no doubt. There's no doubt in my mind that without probation, there's no doubt in my mind that I'm not going to, I'm going to be just fine. I do not believe that I will ever use drugs and alcohol again. It has been so long since I've had any type of contact with any of that. My lifestyle has changed. I'm in bed by 10 o'clock. I feel like an old man. My back hurts every time I wake up in the morning. And, my party days are over, burned out.
And I noticed in going to the very beginning in the petition for early termination and So tab 1, there's a letter from your therapist and Yuki Frazier, who states that she does not believe that you need therapy anymore. In my opinion, Mr. Mary is no longer in need of weekly therapy sessions. Perhaps a maintenance session would be appropriate. If you are not required to attend sessions with her, do you have what is your plan? Do you plan to keep taking sessions with her? What's your thought process?
If I'm not required to take sessions with her, I already told her that we're going to continue sessions. I really like her, and I think every therapist should see a therapist. She is a good fit for me. I don't want to discontinue losing somebody that really has helped me along the way. I'm going to continue to see her as long as I can. I mean, that's my goal for her. And, you know, whether I'm required to or not, I will still continue to see her as well.
Just one or two more questions. You referenced a letter of evaluation. Just, can you tell me basically what you're doing right now, who you're doing it for, and if you can, what that letter said?
Sure. So right now I am
And let's be clear, for the record, you're talking about the letter that's not included as part of the documents.
Yes, so apparently respondent intended to bring a letter or file a letter that didn't get into the packet, so.
Okay, I just wanted to be clear for the record what you're talking about.
Okay, so right now, since the beginning of this year, I have been volunteering at Crossroad Recovery Centers. And actually, so the person that is the supervisor now is, I think he's the CEO, it's his company. And I actually met him at the Gary Center a while back ago. And so that's where I bumped into him. He asked me if I would like to eventually change. So after 2 years of being at the Gary Center, I decided to go there and volunteer and be under his supervision for a while and learn as much as I can about the addictions. It has been a blessed experience. He counts on me for everything, and I have keys to the offices, and he relies on me to show up. And I literally feel like it is a blessed experience, and I have a lot of responsibilities and duties there. You know, his wife helps out with the stuff. You know, I met him, his wife, his kids, and he feels comfortable enough around me to include me to be in the management meetings where the company's going and whatnot and expanding. And, you know, he's expressed that he wants to keep me there as long as possible and that he loves having me there and that I'm trustworthy and honest. And I think at one point in time, I found documents and I returned them to him and his keys. And I think that was a turnaround moment because he left them at the Gary Center one day. And rather than, you know, having them come up missing, I think he needed them really bad. I found them for him, which was a bonding experience that I had with him. So.
I have no further questions at this time, Your Honor.
Thank you. Could you identify who that person is?
His name is Edgar Villa.
Could you spell that, please?
Edgar. The last name is Villa, Villa.
And for the record, we intend to make an effort to get the letter before the board members go into closed session.
Okay, and if not, I mean, I have the letter at home. I have a copy of the letter at home. I don't know if I can fax it or anything like that. I mean,
Well, if you live next door, that'd be great. Otherwise, the board members.
it's like an hour. I mean, I don't know what time we close today, but maybe if I drove an hour home and then came an hour back. Whatever
No,
it takes.
I'm pretty sure we're going to have it.
Right now.
Right.
Okay,
I think it'll be fine.
All right,
Thank
thank
you
you.
very much.
Thank
It's
you.
very kind of you to offer to do that.
thank you.
We'll take questions starting at my right, from my right, rather.
Thank you. Renee Lahner, LCSW member. Thank you for coming in, and congratulations on the major effort you've made, clearly, to turn your life around. I have a couple of questions. One is on the reference letters. There are two of them in here, and neither one refers to your problems with the law or the licensing issues. Did those people know that you had gone through this and about your arrest record?
Yes, they did. They've all received copies of the stipulations of don't know what that packet's called.
Yeah, one
Stipulated
is,
settlement and disciplinary order and statement issues. They've all received that, and then they all wrote a letter to the board, letting them know that they've received the copy. It didn't become an issue. When I first got hired at the Gary Center, I couldn't find a place. When I started doing this, I couldn't find a place to work. None of the places would want to take me because I was on probation. So I had to go back to the chairperson at the university. I worked with them for 8 years. I figured I can go back and talk to them. And when I went to go back and talk to them, she almost gave me a therapy session sitting there. She told me all of her problems, and then after an hour, she's like, what is it you came here for? I said I couldn't find a job. So she picked up the phone, she dialed 3 places, and she said, this is what's happening. I'm going to send him over there tomorrow. He's a great guy. Can you hire him? So the first 2 weren't hiring, and the third one was the Gary Center. So when I went down to the Gary Center, they took me in. So when I gave them all the paperwork, they really didn't look at it. And then after about a week, the director over there, she came and she said, you've been doing pretty good here. And, I really didn't notice that there was theft on here. She's like, we're not going to have a problem with that, are we? And I said no. And eventually, after...
I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
you're going a little bit fast. I'm not
Okay.
hearing everything.
Okay.
You said she, after about a
A
week.
week.
what
She
happened?
came in and she's like, I looked at it thoroughly, and I saw there was a theft on there. She's like, we're not going to have any problems, are we? And I told her no. There's no point in going back for 12 years for stealing anything. And after a while, I became part of the management team. I was included in all the staff meetings. I was the only intern that's been there for 2.5 years. Most of the interns that go through there are in and out in 5 months. They asked me to stay on board. And for a while, I was the only male there, so I was working with all women, which was a blessing as well. Blessing that I had sisters so I can understand how to deal with women. But it was good in the same. And I ended up staying there for 2.5 years. I mean, it was a blessed experience to be at the Gary Center and asked to stay. So.
thank you. Then looking at your therapist letters, and you have copies of all these letters, I assume, from the therapists that are in the packet.
I do now. I don't think I got them before, but I should. What letters are you looking at? These
Are
ones
you
here?
talking about the reports, ma'am?
The reports.
In the back, yeah. And
Okay.
that's following in the tab that says Psychotherapy Reports, and it's marked as Exhibit 3 in the case.
Okay.
Okay. So you didn't see them before
No,
today?
I did not see them before today, no.
Okay. So my question has to do with the therapists, as the reports are written every quarter, kind of, not equivocating, that's the wrong word, but not offering any sort of guarantee that you have sort of crossed over the threshold. Talks about a pull back to previous friends or social environments, and a diagnosis of some previous antisocial behavior. So tell me a little bit about that pull.
Well, in the beginning, the poll was more along the lines of talking about it. Talking about and rehashing all of the old things that have happened from 12 years brought back a lot of memories. So it was one of those things that I needed to work out and work through with the therapist about, who I was hanging out with, old girlfriends that I was seeing, friends that I was knowing at the time, and a lot of that stuff brought back memories. I wouldn't necessarily say the pullback was a desire to use, but the pullback was more along the lines of trying to bring up old memories of what happened, and working through them was a big step. So it was something I had to deal with in order to get to where I am now and be okay with the past life so I can move forward.
Thank you.
Talking about previously.
Okay,
I'd like to give them to the board.
thank you. Please do.
Okay. 'Cause I don't have the paperwork. 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 'Cause I don't have the paperwork
Well, like Mr. Paredes, I hesitate to ask my question, but especially sitting with this board. But my question is, when it talks about pullback, does that mean that you were talking about, your past and your friends and old girlfriends? Or does it mean that you actually were spending time with your old friends?
No, it means talking about them. I have no contact with any old friends or girlfriends. It's been years. Like I'm literally in bed by 10 o'clock. I have no contact with anybody that uses. I literally go to work and go home for the last 4, almost 5 years. Just go to work and go home. I haven't had so much of a traffic ticket in the last almost 8 years. I haven't had any traffic tickets. Like I haven't had any contact. I go to work, I go home. By the time I'm done working, I'm so tired I can't even keep my eyes open.
Okay.
Your Honor, would you like to move I think the respondent would like to move the letter into evidence?
Why don't we let them finish asking questions, and that also gives people time to glance at it as well. No questions? Okay.
I actually had a couple. One of the conditions of your probation was to attend a dependency support group.
Forward.
Hello? There. One of the conditions was to attend a dependency support group. So I'm just kind of wondering, haven't talked about going to AA or...
Excellent question. I have been going to AA for 3 to 4 times a week for the entire probation period, which was the last 3.5 years. When I first started going, very first meeting I went to, I didn't like. Second meeting I went to, I got pulled in by a group of 6 people that were older of age, and when I didn't show up on one of the meeting days, they called me up and said, "Where are you at?" And that was kind of a new experience, but they held me accountable, and I still continue to go to the meetings 3 times a week. I actually get involved with them with the actual AA board panels and the H&I board panels. So I do a lot of speaking, and in the field of addictions, it kind of rolls under my alley to know where all the meetings are and to participate and show up and speak to the people that are there and be a part of that. And I actually really enjoy it. In fact, I think the last card that I turned in was on the last quarterly report. But I still have a card in my pocket from the last month. So I still go. I enjoy it. I enjoy seeing the same people. And I enjoy its culture. It's more than just a meeting, but it is a culture. They have AA events. It started all the way back when they were doing AA events, and they have like homeless courts and stuff like that for clients that need to go and walking them through and counseling and helping them out. It's just a blessing in disguise. It's just kind of been there for me.
You said you were involved in, you said some letters, and then you said a board.
I participate sometimes with the H&I board, which is people that travel.
Okay, and what is H&I?
It's like a.
What do the letters stand for?
I'm not really sure.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure. I just know it's called I'm pretty sure it's called the H&I board, but it's the board panel when they go to different places and they do AA meetings. So sometimes we bring them in, or I'll go there and I help out and I speak for them. Sometimes, it's an anonymous meeting, but sometimes I'll go in there and I'll speak. Like a couple times I've shared my story.
Okay, the court
speaking.
reporter wants you to slow down.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sometimes I will share my story at some of the meetings, for that's more of the panel that I'm talking about, to go up there and share.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So will you continue to go?
Yes.
That's
Yes.
meaningful?
It's very meaningful. I actually enjoy it, so it's not something that's a drag. I'm not being forced to go. I actually enjoy it very much. It is something that I like to continue participating in, and something I feel attached to a little bit.
Okay, so one more. So you've done very well, and you clearly, that really is meaningful to you, to have done well and to be recognized and valued and respected. What kind of supports do you have in place if things go badly?
Good
I'm
question.
sorry, I didn't hear your question.
What's in place to support you if things aren't going very well and you start not feeling as good about what's going on?
Well, my main support is my family. My parents, I tell them everything. no matter what kind of trouble I'm in, no matter any questions they have for work. Like, I tell them everything so I can get good feedback. My dad's a very, very wise person. He's in his 70s. He's here joining me today in the back for support. And, I admire him for coming here and starting a business with $3 in his pocket and making something. He's got a lot of wisdom. So, taking words of advice from somebody who's been there is more along the lines of, having a good mentor. And I still keep in contact with all my old supervisors. I still have contact with all of them. So, I call them up when I can, and I still talk to them, and I'm seeing the therapist as well, so I'm going to continue seeing her, and I am still going to the meetings, so I feel like I have a broad band of support, and I think it'd be good.
Hi. I have a question now.
Okay.
Do you have a sponsor?
I do not have a sponsor. No, I do not have a sponsor. I did have a sponsor.
You did, okay.
I did. The sponsor that I did have kind of fell off the wagon, right? So, so I actually feel like I beat him out in time. Like, I stayed sober and he didn't, which was, a little discouraging. But at that point in time, I kept showing up to the meetings, and more along the lines, the same people that show up to the meetings that actually run the meetings are the same people I see. So I kind of lean on them as my own sponsor. I call them when I need something, but not necessarily, for a sponsorship anymore, but more along the lines of contacting the people that actually run the meeting and whatnot. So I have a good relationship with them.
You work the steps?
I did work the steps. Yes, I did.
Okay.
Yeah. And I am giving back for the 12th step. So.
Thank you. Peter Chu, public member, welcome, and I want to congratulate you and commend you for what you have done. I just have a couple of simple questions. Betty already asked the question I wanted to ask, and you answered it very well. I noticed that your probation was told for several months. I couldn't find why the reason was. Could you tell us why it was told?
It was told to him because I was not working at the time. So I think it was told in the very beginning, because I couldn't find a job right away. And from the probationary status, if you are not working for more than 12 weeks, it starts tolling. So because I wasn't working at the time, it was told. But I was going to the outpatient clinic that I was required to go to. I went to an alcohol outpatient clinic for 3 months. I was seeking out a therapist. So although I wasn't working at the time, I was still having to go 3-4 times a week to the outpatient clinic for the first 3 months, which is mostly why I was being told.
Thank you.
Good morning, and thanks for coming in. So I just have a question. So you have provided a very extensive list of the activities you have done, to prove your rehabilitation efforts. So I am just wondering, what is your biggest or the most significant gain, after being on probation for 3 years?
You know what? The moments that I've had working with people has been absolutely priceless. So that has got to be my biggest gain. In fact, I actually saved a life roughly about 3 weeks ago. A client OD'd, and I gave him CPR and called 911, and I brought him back, and that was a wreck for me and myself because I cried in therapy for about an hour. But it was a blessed experience to be able to.
It wasn't you. Means something.
I know, right? You just blow
Are
it
you
up.
sure you saved them? Strike, motion to strike.
Granted. That's something I would say.
Yeah, he's still alive. He's still breathing. Yeah, he's still breathing. So that was my first experience with that. And, just helping people change themselves and change their own life around was priceless, to see where they've come from start to finish and seeing where they're in with, their treatment and seeing them afterwards. It's you can see the transformation of other people. And that's something that's inspiring to me and inspires me to keep changing myself and doing better.
Did you say that client OD?
He OD'd.
He
yeah.
OD.
He
Have you
OD'd.
thought that it could be me?
What was that?
Did you, in that process, did you, think about that? Oh, that person could be me if I stay on my old path.
Working in this field with addictions, I don't think about it could be me, because I see it, all the negatives every day, that there's no way in hell, like, if I would ever go back to something like that. Like, I see all the negatives so often, and see these guys tearing up their lives and hearing all the stories and working with them, like, there's not a chance.
Good. So in that case, what will be the area that you will continue to work on down the road? I mean, you like challenges. It's very apparent. So what is your next set of challenge or next goal?
My next goal right now would be to continue working and to pass a license exam and to see what's going to be next for me. And, I'd like to try to start a business. I like to continue working with the population. I like to go back to Salvation Army and try to work with veterans, because I truly enjoyed that. I'd like to apply to the VA. I think there's a lot of different options that are open. I just need to select one and go after it.
Have a choice, what would you select?
I would have to say I would probably try to go for the VA.
Hi, Leah Brew, LPCC member. Just two questions. One is, do you have a date of sobriety?
I lost count of the years going through the date of sobriety. The birthdays that they do for those, it's something, if I were to put a date on it, it would have to be June 4th of, I want to say 2004, right? Somewhere around there. It was right after the DUI. I stopped drinking and stopped doing drugs, and stopped all of the shenanigans and kind of pulled myself into full-time school and full-time work. And so that's really my sobriety date that I keep.
So then that last arrest or trouble with the law that you have, what were the circumstances around that, since there were no drugs or alcohol involved?
So the disturbance of the peace?
Yeah.
Well, when he said disturbance of the peace, I kind of laughed, because actually, so I was at a concert, and I think it was July 4th, and I went to a House of Blues for 16. It was 16 and over, so there was no alcohol there, but I drank a lot of water and a lot of soda, and I was in the very far outskirts of Disneyland, and I couldn't hold the bathroom anymore at 2:30 in the morning coming out of the parking lot.
Okay.
And I used a bush, and when the cop got there, he got upset, and he said, "I got better things to do, and they're calling me down here to give you a ticket for this." And I just said, "You know what? No problem. Like, just give me the ticket. And, I just want to go home too." Like.
Okay, that's fair enough. Another just piece of clarification, you'd said you, in 2014, got your license for drug and alcohol counseling. There's no license, there's and there's two different
Certified.
certifications.
The
So are you
certifications.
KDAC certified then, or which, the other one?
I think it's a KDAC, I want to say, not KDAC, it's KDAC CAS, under the CCAP. So it's CADC-CAS.
That's helpful. And the last thing that's kind of a red flag for me, so I want you to speak to this. Your evaluation, like your one challenge, is that you can be challenged with temptations to enjoy life, are the words that she used. And I'm wondering what you think she's talking about with that in your current life.
Well, in my current life, the last time I went to Las Vegas for an addictions conference, I ended up gambling, and I told her about that. So, it was, I truly felt what it was like to be in that. It was like 2 years ago in 2015, I believe it was the addictions conference, and I put $20 down on the table and ended up walking out of there with $3,500. But I couldn't stop thinking about playing again.
So you know you kind of have an addictive personality, right? Yeah.
Exactly, and that's one of the reasons why I haven't been to Vegas since then, but at the same time, I don't think I'm going to win every time. I think it's the one time I actually feel like I won something.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So it's more, would you say that you enjoy thrill seeking? I was just reading an article recently about high T level people, meaning type T people who are thrill seeking. I wonder if that would characterize you.
Well, I don't think I'm more of the high addictive personality. When I did gamble, I took $60 with me. I didn't take an ATM card. I didn't take hundreds of dollars with me, but I ended up winning $3,500 from $60.
Yeah,
So
that's pretty exciting.
yeah, that was kind of exciting. And I'm at an addictions conference, and the whole time I couldn't stop thinking about playing. At the break, I'm downstairs at the tables. They had it in the casino. It's their fault.
That was kind of an unwise choice. Yeah. Okay. All right. It seems like you've demonstrated some insight to kind of what led you to making poor choices in terms of your upbringing and sibling competition and then choosing the wrong crowd. Have you made peace with that, do you think?
I have made peace with that. And my relationship with my brothers and sisters is amazing. We're all very close. I talk to them all almost every day. We all are on the group text message. My parents' relationship with myself has gone from me wanting to exploit from the family and take off in the younger age to hey, Dad, I need some advice. Not necessarily, but the hammer down, but hey, I need some advice. And my relationship with my mother is very good, so it's a blessing.
Thanks.
Hi there, Max Disposti, public member, Amount. Thank you, thanks for being here, and thank you and for all the progress as well. I just have a little question. It looks like you have a great support system around you, from family and professional support. At the same time, also, I hear from you, you feel like an old man. You're 33 and you're going to sleep at 10? 35. Okay, that makes a huge difference for me. But I'm a little bit concerned because you keep saying, I'm going to sleep at 10, and definitely because you're very well committed, you're volunteering, you're working hard, you're doing all the right things. But at the same time, a good balance is important too, right? Because otherwise, so my question is, how do you cope with those stressful mechanisms? Because the family, it's an incredible support. They sometimes can't replace everything, right? But you work on with clients, so there is confidential information. Definitely, you can't go home and tell the stories to your parents. So what are your coping mechanisms besides the addiction in relations to stress and perhaps working maybe too much or not having that balance? So avoiding those places, those people that might cause some triggers might end up not having any social life, for instance. Are you dealing with that? Are you addressing that? And I would like to hear a little bit more about that. Thank you.
I do enjoy life very much. So I go surfing in the mornings, sometimes before work. I go to the beach. I like to go skateboarding. I play sports. I was umpiring for a while. I still have all my umpire gear. I umpire little leagues. I also play men's baseball for a while, and in the adult leagues. So I'm very active. I took an Apple app course. I've been making my own Apple app. I enjoy sitting down and using computers in my spare time. Very handy with those. And I get to do my own hobbies. I also do musical recording. So I record musicians, and I go to conferences, and I go to exhibits where I get to try out the new musical equipment before they come out. I have a lot of friends in the music business that are successful. So it's a blessing to enjoy my own life, So you get to work, but at the same time, I get to live a little bit and to do fun things where I can have fun being sober,
Thank you. Thanks for your answer.
congratulations on coming as far as you have. Sorry, yesterday I was sitting right next to them. Explain to me about the tolling. Why did you do that? Because I don't believe all of our probationers have to go off probation and then restart when they don't have a job. Some snuff people aren't working at all.
So on the actual quarterly form, it'll say, have you been working for more than 12 months or 12 weeks? So in the very beginning, I couldn't find work. I had to do the outpatient program, which was 3 to 4 times a day, where I'm going in there for 4 or 5 hours a day. I was doing AA meetings regularly. It would have been too much for me to try to make a commitment to doing therapy constantly when I had to finish these things first. I was seeing my own therapist as well, and that was pretty much running me down for the good 3-4 months, because the outpatient treatment, I believe, was 4 months. And so for the first, I think for that part of it, I wasn't able to work and find a job. I was running around from here to Long Beach, back to Anaheim for my therapist, back to here, back to there for meetings. It was too much at first. But on the paper for the quarterly report, it says tolling. If it starts tolling after 12 weeks. If you haven't been working for 12 weeks, they start tolling because you're supposed to be working.
I see. And when you are off probation and you don't have all these requirements to live up to for the board, how do you see your life changing after you're off probation? And there's many things you won't have to do, but some you may choose to do.
Yes. So after I get off probation, I'm going to continue doing the fun things I enjoy doing. I'm going to continue working, and I'm going to eventually get my license and apply for maybe the VA. I want to apply to different places and see what I can pick out. I really liked working with veterans. Veterans is something I would really like to go back into. I did a lot of case management with them through Salvation Army, and I feel like I got a good history with the VA, and I feel like I have a lot of knowledgeable experience in their forms and their benefits, and going down to the federal building and helping them out with the benefits coordinators and stuff like that. So I think that was a blessing in disguise for me to give me that experience.
Yeah, I counsel veterans too, and it's a very meaningful thing to do. Although I warn you, you may be a little disillusioned by the VA, but that varies from office to office. But it's a reality of a veteran's life, and you come up against that, and it may not sit well with you. So keep in mind there are other ways of helping. The organization I work with is all volunteer, so that's not going to help you. But there are many ways to help veterans without having a job at the VA.
Sure.
How do you see yourself socially after you're off of probation? How's that going to change your social life?
My social life is, I feel like I'm married now. Understandably, but at the same time, my social life is pretty plain, which is good because it's slowed down a lot since I was in my 20s. And, I don't feel like I have the energy to do any of those other things anymore. But my social life is, all my friends are married. Most of them have kids. And it's very, very married-like. I don't know, it's one thing when I'm 20 and my friends are out there running around. It's another thing when I'm 35 and all my friends are married and have kids.
Sobering.
Yeah.
Right. Yes. Okay, thank you.
Yes, and I was going to ask if anyone had any additional questions in light of the fact that the new letter has been provided to everyone. I will include this letter as part of the packet of letters that's attached to the petition itself.
Okay, so there's addition to Exhibit 1?
Yes.
Okay, no objection to that.
Thank you. Proceed.
This is not in relation to the letter, and I don't know that there's a proper question legally. If it isn't, one of the three attorneys in the room will stop me, I'm sure. But just hypothetically, if we were not able to terminate your probation, but were able to modify certain terms, what terms would they be and how would you want them modified? You haven't mentioned testing at all.
It's pretty costly, and it's very time consuming. So testing sometimes, is very, when I first started doing this, the case manager for the board, she told me, she said, look, your life is going to change. And she said, there are certain things that are being required for you that you have to work your life around them and not them around your life. So, for example, if I'm scheduled to work and I have to look and check and see if I'm scheduled to have a UA, then I have to make an appointment and I have to leave work to go UA. And I've made every UA appointment. I've never missed one. I've made them all on time, and I call her for anything. So, that sort of thing is difficult. The money is difficult,
For the record, UA.
Yes, urine
analysis.
analysis. Sorry.
So it's fair to say you might want that, if you had a wish list, you might want that modified in terms of frequency. Any other terms that are not serving you that you feel could be modified?
I mean, the things that I have left are seeing the therapist, going to the AA meetings, and the urine analysis. I'm still doing the AA meetings, whether or not, and I'm also still seeing my therapist. I don't think there's anything left to modify except for the UAs, and I don't feel that anything like that would hinder me from continuing sobriety and going where I'm at. Like, I have goals I want to complete. I want to try to put this behind me so I can move forward with my life and not have to feel like I'm under probation and feel like I'm under these stipulations. I want to be able to live life a little bit and move forward and get married and stuff like that without feeling something, putting a lock on me or to put pressure on me and whatnot.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
No questions.
No questions. And I can't remember if I asked if there were any objections to the exhibits.
Let's do it formally. If we would like to move in the exhibits that have been previously marked.
Exhibits
1 through 5.
1 through 5. Do you have any objections, sir, to any of the admission of any of the exhibits?
No.
Exhibits 1 through 5 are admitted.
With that, we submit, Your Honor.
Did you want to make a closing argument, sir?
No, Your Honor.
Any recommendation from the people?
No recommendation on this case.
Then the matter is deemed submitted as of today's date, and we'll go off the record. Thank you. Take a short break.
Yes. Why don't we take a short 10-minute break?
45 minutes.
It's not lunchtime.
We are up. Okay, welcome back to the Welcome back to the Board of Behavioral Sciences. It is 10:12 a.m. Before we move to the other items, I want to make note that the probation hearings for Jamone Bryant, Teresa Fernander, and Ferocian Jamie will not be present, and so now we will move on. Okay. Is there any public comment for items not on the agenda? Seeing none, we will move on. Are there any suggestions for future agenda items from the board? So that would be no, we have none. So now I am going to adjourn at 10:13 to closed session.